Hello and welcome to another Warhammer 40,000 Faction Focus. I am joined by Spirit Seer and knowledgeable 40k expert Adam Camilleri. Adam, thanks for joining us.
First time you've called me a knowledgeable 40k expert, but
well,
I hope I can live up to it
over the course of the series.
I hope so at this point. We're here to talk about the Aeldari, which have 4 detachments.
Yeah, so we've got 2 for your kind of common or garden craft world and 2 for the Harlequins.
Yes, I'm very excited about how these work into the lexicon for Aeldari in totality, because there's already such a great depth of detachments for Aeldari, and then the idea of any of these 4 being added in addition as a supplementary force to some of the existing detachments is very exciting to me. I think you add some very interesting abilities.
So how do you think the Aeldari generally are going to play into the new edition?
I think they're going to do superbly well. The way they've been mostly played in the previous edition was as a multiple small unit, kind of like a swarm of 5 models, mostly in Aspect Host, but also we've seen great results from Windrider Host and various others as well. And yeah, it's been really exciting. Ynnari as well for a time had a very strong detachment. And so for the most part, they've been a small unit value-based army, and usually out trading their opponent by just having more highly powered units that, whilst low durability, have had the ability to punch up. And I think when you add this package in there, it starts to get really exciting.
All right, well, let's have a look at some of the detachments. We're going to start off with Armoured Host, and this is a refresh of an already familiar detachment. This is about Aeldari vehicles. Yeah,
so in Grotmas 2024, we had a version of this detachment come out, and that's been redone for the brand new edition of the game. So Aeldari vehicles will just get assault. Just all of them get an assault. Advancing,
and the difference
shooting.
to call out here really is that because this is now a smaller detachment, previously you had to commit to this fully, right? This was your only detachment.
Yes.
So you were like, I guess I'm having an Eldar tank army.
Yeah.
Whereas now this is one of the tools, one of the detachments you can bring to the table.
Exactly.
You can still have things that bolster your infantry or your jet bikes or something else.
Yeah, so it makes a lot more sense of this ideology to, you're taking a package, maybe 2 to 3 fire prisms, some of the new Corsair or Viper-like small skirmishing piecing vehicles, and then, usual Falcon and or Wave Serpent equivalents. And yeah, this just activates all of that in such new and beautiful ways.
Yeah. Let's have a look at some of the enhancements and the stratagems. We've got one there which is the Spirit Stone of Ryleth, which you can give to an Eldar Psyker and effectively makes them like a bone singer, I suppose.
This is really cool because this is like all the goodness of a Tech Marine put on an Aeldari Psyker. And this doesn't say infantry Psyker as well, so that could be a Skyrunner, could be on a bike, Windrider, sorry. While this unit is within 3 of a friendly Aeldari vehicle, they will have lone operative.
That's immediately great.
Fantastic. Yeah. And in addition, in your movement phase at the start or end of this unit's move, you can heal D3 wounds off an Aeldari vehicle. I think this is actually really cool.
Yeah, so you can imagine this on a Farseer or something, or any of your kind of Psykers moving around the backfield, healing those units that have started to take some damage. So if you find your fire prisms in a shootout with some enemy predators or something, you can heal them back up.
Exactly right. Or you do this on the front foot and you have, a Farseer or a Warlock on a bike sitting, aggressively placed in the middle of the table, with a Wave Serpent on the inside of a wall that you can't see. So, and then the Wave Serpent, maybe it's got Jane's Iron 10 Banshees in it. What are you going to do? You're going to run straight towards that with your aggressive units to get the Farseer? Sounds like a bad time. And so I think this combos really well.
Well, you could put it in a transport. You could pile them out. They get blown up because they're next to the transport. They could do an action.
Correct.
The tank kind of is there with your counterpunch unit. So it's just a lot of utility in that ability alone.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, I think this is really cool.
We've also got stratagems, obviously there. One we're going to look at is vectored engines, and this effectively means that if your unit has fallen back, one of your vehicles, they can still shoot.
Still get to shoot. Great ability. It's going to be really handy when you get right into the mix of things. I really like this on things like War Walkers, who just a lot of the time are coming on from the board edges, and then they're usually coming on to get an angle into something quite good. But then the way to shut down a War Walker is just to charge 5 scouts into it, so to speak. This will let your War Walker maintain their position in the game.
I like it on stuff like the fire prisms because they're so fast that actually you don't want them pinned down, and also you can pull back and put your blast weapon into the unit that tried to engage you, right?
Exactly right.
It's quite hard to catch Eldar vehicles, so you tend to catch them with lighter stuff.
Correct.
Which means that if you get to shoot at the lighter stuff, your Eldar vehicle will usually kill them.
Yeah, in addition, it usually is like a 1-2 punch of people trying to line up something that will shut you down and then having something behind it that will go in and then probably kill you on the next turn if they can. And then something like that means you kind of don't use the first wave. You just kind of have to hope that the hammer blow lands and you kill the unit. Otherwise, you're in trouble.
If you can catch them.
And exactly right, because when you fall back so far away you might not get another chance.
Yeah. Well, next up, we've got Path of the Outcast. This is a Ranger and Shroud Runners themed detachment. A lot of interaction here with the hidden rule.
Yeah, and depending on the detachment pointing of the one that I mentioned, Wind Rider host, who already likes to take a lot of Shroud Runners, especially. That's really good in that detachment. This is one that I could see as an ancillary force going along that, depending on what the detachment points come out as. But this one, Rangers and Shroud Runners, when they're selected to shoot, enemy units will have +6 detection range. That's a fantastic ability. It means that you can be far further away and still impacting the midboard or your opponent's deployment zone whilst being harder to hit yourself, because this is going to combo with some pretty amazing abilities.
Yeah, got some other great abilities in there as well. The first one we'll look at is Camouflage Snipers. This is something you can give to a Ranger unit and basically allows them to shoot while staying hidden.
Hidden, exactly right. And of course, you have a reactive move as the data sheet ability for Rangers, so you're going to be able to move away and continue to stay hidden. Like I said, trying to keep that unit ahead of your opponent's pressure, and you're going to be able to shoot and deal damage and avoid reprisal if you're a savvy player.
Yeah, 'cause those Ranger units are very fragile when they get caught, right? They've got very low toughness, not a very good armor save, but they've got a bunch of tools to help them stay alive, and this just puts another tool
impediment
in the tool belt.
in your opponent's play. And of course, Rangers are like really fit for so many different purposes at the moment, and the fact that now they can shoot, be safe after they've shot, while also, potentially on other turns, controlling or corralling your opponent's movement and, doing actions, scoring objectives.
And still one of the cheapest units in the Eldar army as well. So it's not a huge points investment, right, to kind of add quite a lot of Rangers into your army. You can have 2 or 3 units without feeling like you've dented the damage output of the force.
You won't have had to compromise the spine, so to speak, the heart of the list.
A couple of other things to talk about there. We've got 2 stratagems. Eldritch Suppression is the first one, and this is a way of triggering Battle Shock onto enemy units from your Rangers and from your Shroud Runners.
I like this a lot because I just mentioned a bunch of utility ways to generate value from your Rangers and Shroud Runners. This is just adding a brand new way as well. So for one command point in your shooting phase, when one of those keyed units, the Rangers or Shroud Runners, has shot, select one enemy unit hit by those attacks. They'll have to take a Battle Shock. If they lost any models from that activation, they'll have to take a Battle Shock at -1 instead. And we've already mentioned plenty of times in these faction focuses, Battle Shock is so much more important because you don't automatically unbattle shock in your command phase.
Yeah, and I think there's a couple of great utilities for this. So one of the things that's quite nice and worth calling out is that you get to use this stratagem after you've shot.
Yes.
So you get to kind of fire the Ranger unit, see if you kill an enemy models. You go, I did kill one.
Yeah.
This is a great opportunity to use this. Trigger this ability, and then go take a Battle Shock at -1.
Yeah.
And immediately good because Battle Shock's great, it stops people scoring, but particularly good if, for example, you've got an enemy, a Banshee unit that's running towards them. You want to avoid counter charges or overwatches into your Scorpions or something like that, and you go, right, I'm going to stop that. None of your stratagems. The Ranger unit supporting the Aspect unit as it advances.
Exactly right. There's so many ways to interact, especially like you said, the new Heroic Intervention. 2 command points, charge your opponent within 6 inches, even if they didn't. Like having the chance to turn this off, I like it a lot. And the fact that you said the timing, the way this comes in is after until it has shot. You get to look at their leadership. And then, did you kill a unit? And then whether it's worth using. Is this going to be a 1/3, failure rate, 2/3 failure rate, over half or 50%? You'll know when this is good to use.
Yeah, I think that's potentially like a game-winning ability.
It is. There's
loads of really great combos there. Last up, we've got Casting Back the Veil. This is another thing that interacts with the detection range and the hidden rule. Your army rule effectively is giving +6 detection range for your Rangers and Shroud Runners. This allows them to pass it on to another friendly unit.
Correct, exactly. It perfectly said. So 1 CP, once you have a shot with your +6 detection range on your Rangers or Shroud Runners, you will pass that benefit on to other units in your army. Perfectly acceptable. Good ability.
Great. So, and if you've got Rangers in your army already, this is a great way to...
So many players already are taking 2-3 units of Rangers in their army. They can just take this detachment and get a huge amount of benefits in doing so.
Excellent. Right, we're moving on to the Harlequin portion of the stratagems. First one, Twilight's Flickers. This is an ability that basically gives your army stealth.
Yes, so friendly Harlequin units just have stealth. This comes with the acrobatic tag, as in you cannot take any other detachment that also have this tag, which you'll hear more about when we talk about the next one, which also has the same tag. So you can't really combo both of these together. But stealth is just a great ability to have on Harlequins because you already come with a invulnerable save. You are only toughness 3. They're going to already make great use of the new hidden rules because essentially if your opponent has an army that packs guns and they can shoot at the Harlequins, usually the Harlequins go away.
That's true.
So having a chance to have a few left could be significant.
Yes, that's really anything you can do to keep them alive because they're very good at winning fights when they get to go first.
Exactly.
They're really not very good at winning fights if they get caught out in the open?
They are usually a one-way trip missile. They're a hunter-killer troop. And what if they connect, they usually almost always do the job.
Yeah. Looking at some of the enhancements and the stratagems, first one we're going to look at is Prelude Performer. This is an enhancement you can give to a character, and it gives that unit Scout.
Yep. Scout 6 is not a bad ability to have. So you could have theoretically a Troop Master or a Shadow Seer with a full unit of troop just starting 6 inches up the table. We know how fast Harlequins are. If you start 6 inches up the board and you go first, your opponent has to be so deep into their lines to theoretically not be charged turn 1.
So you can either threaten all the midfield objectives, or you can go, I'm just going to put pressure immediately onto the enemy unit.
What you do is you tell your opponent, as you're deploying your army, being like, I have a maxed out unit of troop with a deadly character that can scout 6 and charge you turn 1, and then watch them have to deploy their army completely differently.
Yeah.
Weaponize it. Use it against them.
And then last up, we're going to look at Captivating Performance. This is a stratagem for this detachment, and it effectively allows you to use Objective Secured.
Yes, so Objective Secured may be something you guys haven't heard of just quite yet. We have a colloquial term for maintaining a control of an objective called sticking an objective to your faction, as in I've planted a flag on that, and this always had various different ways of being said in different rules.
Yeah, lots of codices had something that was similar to it, and they might have been slightly different.
Yeah, correct. Now that's all been rolled into Secured. So for one command point, a unit of troop at the end of your movement phase, which is the best timing, by the way, it's the best timing to secure an objective. You get to move onto that. You get to even advance onto it. You get to do as you please, fall back onto it, because at the end of your movement phase, and then you get to maintain control of that objective ongoing until your opponent stops you.
And what's great about the timing on that one is because you don't want your Harlequin unit to be out in the open, or even really on an objective, even with a cover. So you can jump out of a transport, finish your move on that objective, tag the objective, move off the objective, and charge an enemy unit. Move. They've already done the main job they have, which is to grab the objective, and they've stopped an enemy unit getting it too, and they're fighting.
Combos extremely well with the enhancement we talked about as well, where you can just scout onto an objective, turn 1, secure it, and then move off it and make it your opponent's problem to go and stop you, while completely maintaining your unit just in a stage position up the table. Yeah, really cool.
Great. We're going to look at another Harlequin detachment. This is Fateful Performance, and this has an ability that is probably familiar to Harlequin players. This basically means that you can charge move through enemy models.
This is huge in the new way that charge mechanics work. Previously in the edition, you would just be like, this unit is going to charge at this unit, and then you would roll the dice and see if you made it. Now, you say, this unit is going to charge, and then you roll the dice and decide where you want to go. And if you're telling me your opponent can't screen off and control where this unit is going to go, that just means you have all the ability to aim high with your charge rolls and go for the high rolls and be like, well, if I roll a 12, I can catch anything within this. I'm just going to get into combat with whatever I like. Because none of your screens or barriers or things you put in the way are going to change anything here. And you just roll the dice and go where you please. It is a very powerful ability.
This feels like something that combos really nicely with maybe a transport to kind of push up early in the first turn. In the second turn, you pile out the absolute maximum limit of your potential movement in front of enemy units. And then try roll big, right?
Yeah, roll big, aim high. I love it.
Speaking of rolling high, you do have an enhancement that helps you do that. You've got something you can give to the Troop Master, which is called A Foot in the Future, which lets you re-roll the charge rolls. So this combos really nicely with the army ability.
Exactly right. Doubles down. The way you want to use this is you want to get as close to your opponent's screening unit as possible and then roll that charge. And then you'll have a second chance to roll that big charge with this Foot in the Future ability. And if you roll low, you just go into the screen that was right in front of you anyway.
Yep. And then last up, we have a series of stratagems. The one we're going to look at is called Deceptive Feint. This is a reactive move.
This is fantastic. This is one of my favorite abilities for all of Aeldari. So this is a 1 command point. Your opponent's movement phase, when an enemy unit ends a move within 8 inches of an unengaged Harlequins infantry unit, you will get to make a D3 plus 3 reactive move. Now, why this is key is because anytime you add a reactive move into the Aeldari faction, because of the battle focus tokens that they have, 2 of which give you other abilities and ways to move out of sequence, whenever you add a third one into that, the magnifier of your opponent's mental gymnastics to negotiate.
What could he do now if you've got you could go forward or backwards
sideways, spin on the spot, whatever they like, and you just see this kaleidoscope of how do I avoid them doing all these things just go through your brain. And anytime you can add another such ability is exceptional. And what's crazy about this and what is awesome about this is that this isn't your entire detachment. You are not just left with 2 enhancements, 1 detachment ability and 3 stratagems. This can be a supplementary 4 force attached to many others. I love how some of these work with some of the ones we've already covered, because you can see a very aggressive Harlequin force with an armored host, being, the anti-tank, long-range firepower, while you're pushing forward, pressuring your opponent with scouting or, going through modelled Harlequin units. I think this combos really well.
Or you could imagine a ranger-led force that's giving covering fire to the Harlequins as they advance. So we've already talked about abilities that kind of trigger battle shock, so enemy can't use their own things to stop your Harlequins. So some great combos there.
Absolutely is.
Brilliant. Well, Adam, thank you so much for your thoughts and expertise. We will be back very soon with more faction focus.